Once a bustling city of over 500,000 people has now turned into a ghost town. Relentless bombardment by Russian forces has destroyed the city of Mariupol. Moscow has bombed residential areas, schools and hospitals in port cities since the invasion. Ukraine claims that nearly 5,000 people have been killed in the second largest city of Ukraine, blocked by shelling. Mariupol is also running out of water and food supplies. Humanitarian aid is finding it difficult to get in and out of the city. Many roads are now inaccessible due to a combination of mines and burnt-out military equipment. According to the Mariupol mayor, about 90% of the buildings in the city had been damaged and about 40% completely destroyed. While 140,000 civilians have managed to escape from besieged Mariupol, another 170,000 are still trapped.
Маріуполь так і залишається заблокованим. Російські війська не дали організувати сьогодні жодного гуманітарного коридору, не дали тишу.
Gaurav Savan joining us from Kyiv and Geeta Mohan joining us live from Donetsk. Gaurav, what's the situation as far as Mariupol is concerned? Will it fall? That is the big question.
You know, the situation in Mariupol does remain extremely grim. The Russian forces have not only surrounded Mariupol from every direction, they're also now quickly moving inside the city. But from the information that we are getting, that seems to indicate that the Azov Battalion, which is the ultra right wing that President Putin considers as neo-Nazis, or the Russians consider them as neo-Nazis, they are fighting back, and they are fighting back literally from rooftops and street corners, taking on the Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers. There are some images that are going viral that seem to indicate that as the Russian tanks roll into streets, from windows and rooftops, NLAW missiles, anti-tank guided missiles and the Javelin ATGMs are being fired at those tanks to neutralize them. So those pitched battles continue, but street by street, the Russian attempt is to take control of complete Mariupol, subjugate the people, and then they forced a large number of people to move into their territory. So perhaps if resources do not pour into Mariupol from the Ukrainian side, it's only a matter of time before Russians have complete control of Mariupol.
And what about Putin's handpicked warlord, Chechen strongman Ramzan Kadyrov? He's reached Mariupol as well. And what are the concerns with him reaching Mariupol at this point?
So apart from the Russian forces, you also have the Chechen fighters, experts in guerrilla warfare, and this is where urban warfare becomes extremely significant and important. Remember when we were reporting from Mariupol, it's an urban center, it's a built-up town, and a huge one at that, with a bustling metro city, metros running. There are multiple buildings. Now you need to clear every building. The army takes control of an area, but building clearances or removing pockets of resistance, that is where these Chechen fighters play an extremely crucial role. Also because the rules of war, to a very large extent, not applicable in terms of Geneva Convention. You have to follow certain principles of war. While the armies have to do that, the fighters, the guerrilla fighters, some of these groups that are fighting here, including the militia, they do not follow those rules of war. And that is where the Chechen fighters or the Wagner forces become extremely important as far as the Russians are concerned, and very dangerous as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, because they do not follow the rules of war as much, but clearing pockets of resistance is where they are coming in. The fight that Kadyrov was seen there, or that video went viral, was an indication to Chechen fighters that now is the time for them to complete what is in military parlance known as mopping up operations. So they intend carrying out mopping up operations once the Russians are completely in control of Mariupol, removing all the pockets of resistance. But that would be, after Kherson, the second major city falling to Russian forces.
It is a matter of huge concern what is happening at the moment. And, Gaurav, every day I ask you this question. I know nobody has the answers. What next, and how will this all end?
Frankly, there is a report that's just come out in one of the Western media, which is going viral on the Telegram network or on social media platforms here, that seem to indicate that a personal note from President Zelensky was sent to President Putin in terms of the talking points and the road ahead, and the information that is going viral in this country seems to indicate that President Putin not only rejected that note, he also seemed to say to the interlocutors that there would be punishment to follow, and the manner in which the Russian forces are now advancing in this country, the manner in which there's a siege around Kyiv, and the Russian forces attempt to be moving forward is an indication that that punitive strikes, the punishment, like what's happening in Mariupol, like what's happening in several other cities, may just happen to Kyiv in the days ahead. But it will not be easy for the Russians either, given the resources in the past 1 month. And remember, we were seeing this conflict from before it started. We got here on the 17th of February, and that is where resources were being built up. From that day till now, the kind of resources that have come into the city, the kind of fighters who have come into the city, the kind of defenses that they've taken into the city is an indication. You know, virtually every other rooftop, every other window has strategically guided and positioned anti-tank guided missiles. Rooftops have surface to air missiles. There are not only local trained fighters, there are also foreign fighters, and in a moment from now we'll be sending you this report. We've interacted with a former US Navy SEAL, with a former US Marine, we've interacted with former British veterans, British Army veterans, French Army veterans. They are all in, a number of them are now in this city, in touch with the government here, fanning out to various areas and protecting various pockets. So, God forbid, if it intensifies in the weeks ahead, it will be a very bloody battle.
And Gaurav, since you mentioned that, Ukraine has been requesting the West for a very long time for so much that they want, and what is the Western nations' stance as far as Ukraine's requests are concerned? Are they being met?
You know, Chetty, when it comes to when it comes to defensive weapons, when it comes to anti-tank guided missiles or surface-to-air missiles, they are getting a large number of these systems and from multiple countries. So now it's not just the javelins, but they're also getting the NLAWs. It's not just the Stingers, but they're getting a lot of other missiles, including from UK, missiles that can go up to 3 times the speed of sound, missiles that can actually take down any low-flying fighter jet or helicopter. And that would compel the Russians to rethink their air strategy. But what is it that they require? They actually require, as President Zelensky has repeatedly said on multiple fora, you know, he's actually said this when he was addressing NATO. He said it to the US Congress. He said it to the British, to the French, to the British, to so many other countries, where he says, I want fighter jets. He's not getting them. He says, I want tanks. He's not getting them. He wants the S-300 missile defense shield. He's not getting that. Now, when he doesn't get these weapons, then missile defense becomes a big problem for him. Then offensive operations or even defensive operations in his own country become extremely difficult for him. Because with the defensive weapons, you can go thus far and no further.
Absolutely. Gaurav, continue to be there, right there. Gaurav Sawant reporting live from Kyiv. Geeta Mohan is now joining us from Donetsk, and Geeta is also our World Affairs editor. So, Geeta, as far as the talks of ceasefire are concerned between Russia and Ukraine, the United States at this point also remains skeptical of any possible ceasefire in sight. What is the sense you're picking up?
Well, absolutely. The message from Russia very clear, including from Donetsk, where I stand, that there is going to be no ceasefire, that the demands of the Russian side will have to be met. So the negotiations that are between Ukraine and Russia are going to be very tough. The Russian side, including the Donbass region, are not going to relent till the demands are accepted of 2 very important points. One is recognizing the independence of Donetsk.
All right, we've lost Geeta right there, but Gaurav Sawant still continues to be with us at the moment. If we have Gaurav with us, let's go straight across to Gaurav Sawant. Geeta is getting us that particular report as far as talks and negotiations are concerned. And Gaurav, we are talking about peace talks right here, which seems to be a far cry, as you already mentioned, Geeta mentioned as well. The United States is skeptical of it. Now, there are peace negotiators who have been sent to Ukraine as well. And we have put out this story as to how they seem to have been poisoned too in Ukraine.
You know, the situation on ground is extremely tense and precarious. I'll tell you why. The Russians now... So there is a lot of Western propaganda that seems to indicate that the Russians are, they've either, lost steam, they're unable to move forward, or they're being bogged down. The Russians on their side seem to insist that according to them, it's moving as per plan. Geeta's in Donetsk. So they had 30% of territory. Now they have almost 90% of territory. Should they get Mariupol, they'll have majority of that entire Donbass region with them. So they cut off, Crimea in 2014. They already had Georgia separately in 2008. And they moved forward for Donbass in 2022. They're moving forward. They're on the outskirts of Kyiv on the north. Yesterday, of course, the late night when we interacted with the senior army officer here, he told us that the Russians have been pushed back from Irpin. He says Irpin is now virtually Russian-free, but civilians are not being allowed to go in because there is an apprehension that there could be swift counterattacks. So no side is able to consolidate in these areas. But remember, there were two objectives that the Russians had on the 24th of February, as President Putin said. One was change President Zelensky's regime, and two, demilitarize this nation. 1 month plus into that conflict, neither of those aims have been met. But this country, to a very large extent, is now cut to size, so to say. They've lost the Sea of Azov, they've lost Black Sea, there's trouble in Odessa, they've lost Kherson, but pitched battles continue for both. So as of now, the situation remains precarious. The economy is in a shambles. There are millions who are out of this country. Even though the train that we were on board when we were returning to Kyiv, a number of women and children are also returning to fight. Men were anyway here. Women are returning to join their husbands, and children naturally cannot be left outside. So now people think that they can consolidate and fight back. But will they get the weapons and systems to fight back? That remains the biggest challenge as far as this country is concerned.
Gaurav, you stay safe and continue to be with us right there. Gaurav Sawant reporting live back again from Ukraine. In the midst of the war, in the eye of the storm, our relentless reporters on ground are risking their own lives and bringing you up to speed with the latest that is taking place. The battle for port city of Mariupol has intensified. According to reports, the Azov Battalion, infamous for war crimes, is defending Ukraine's second largest city from Russian forces. Neo-Nazis defending the city of Mariupol has raised question on Ukraine's spirited defense. Here's a report.
Battered, bruised, besieged. After relentless Russian bombardment and civilian deaths, Ukraine's second-largest city of Mariupol is on the edge, but still holding fort. Moscow has launched an all-out war to capture the city, which can act as the bridge between Donbass and Crimea, two regions that are already under Russian control. According to reports from the ground, Mariupol is mainly being defended by Ukraine's Azov Battalion, a unit infamous for war crimes and torture tactics. This video was released by the Azov Battalion last week. The footage appears to show tanks firing down a street in Mariupol. The Azov claims to have destroyed 3 Russian armored vehicles and 4 infantry fighting vehicles. Mariupol is also where the battalion has set up its headquarters. The Azov Special Operations Detachment is a right-wing neo-Nazi band of soldiers. A volunteer militia, the Azov was incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine in November 2014 after recapturing Mariupol from pro-Russian separatists. Russian President Vladimir Putin has spoken of the presence of such units within the Ukrainian military to justify his war.
We simply don't have any other choice to protect our people, and we'll have to use the only available choice that we will use today. The circumstances require immediate, resolute action. The People's Republics of the Donbass have requested assistance from Russia. In this regard, in line with Article 51.7 of the UN Charter, with the authorization of the Parliament of Russia, and in exercising the Treaty on Friendship and Mutual Assistance with the Donetsk People's Republics and Lugansk People's Republics, I've taken the decision to conduct a special military operation. Its purpose is to protect people who have been subject to abuse and genocide by the Kyiv regime for 8 years. And to do this, we will strive to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, and also bring to justice those who have committed numerous bloody crimes against civilians, including citizens of the Russian Federation.
Just a few days after the war started, the Ukrainian National Guard had shared a video of supposed Azov fighters allegedly dipping bullets in pig fat for use against Muslim Chechen fighters in Ukraine. The regiment brazenly flaunts the Nazi insignia, notably its Wolf's Angel logo, the original symbols used by the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich. The Azov is least concerned about being labelled neo.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's ally and Chechen President warlord Ramzan Kadyrov have arrived in Mariupol, where Chechen fighters have been fighting for the Russians. Kadyrov, who is known to be a brutal tyrant, has been accused of several human rights violations. Who is this dreaded Chechnya leader? Here's the report.
Говорит наш командующий, самый лучший командующий.
Ramzan Kadyrov, the man who rules Chechnya with an iron fist, handpicked by Vladimir Putin for the top job. Someone who wrestles crocodiles with bare hands. Known as Putin's attack dog, Kadyrov has landed in the near-fallen city of Mariupol, where the dreaded Chechen fighters continue their deadly assault. The Chechen warlord is likely to finalize the strategy for his fighters in Mariupol. Kadyrov portrays a macho image of himself, frequently posing with guns and military garb. He has never shied away from flaunting his opulent wealth. A known tyrant who stops at nothing. The Chechen president has been accused of a wide array of human rights violations under his rule. Kadyrov has been accused of ordering torture and extrajudicial killings, along with a string of assassinations of Russian journalists and human rights activists. A number of his Chechen critics who sought asylum abroad were attacked or killed even on foreign soil. Kadyrov imposes regression through violence in Chechnya, where he ordered women to be shot at with paintballs for not observing the Islamic dress code, even urging men to block their wives from using WhatsApp. The Chechen leader also backs polygamy and in the past has ordered purges against homosexuals, going on to claim there is no homosexual person in Chechnya. Ramzan Kadyrov is one of Kremlin's deadliest weapons, and Putin has now decided to unleash Kadyrov on Ukraine. Bureau Report, India Today.
Will there be a big escalation in the days to come? Ukraine's armed forces say that Russian troops are attempting to advance into Kyiv from the northwest and east. Their plan is to capture nearby roads and villages. What will happen next? Here's a report.
Вже штук 20 пролетіло.
The raging battle for capital city Kyiv continues, and Moscow is increasing both intensity of attacks and ferocity of weaponry, aiming to make the phase 2 of the ongoing war even deadlier. Russian troops are attempting to advance on Kyiv from the northwest and the east, capturing nearby roads and villages. But Ukraine is not backing down. Russian forces are currently being held back by Ukrainian fightback in outskirts of Kyiv.
Early this morning, there was intense shelling reported from the north, northeast and west, 3 directions in Kyiv, and that is where the Russian forces are reportedly advancing. So initially there was a feeling that there would be a lull since negotiations are happening, but there appears to be an intensification in the operations that are being carried out by the Russians.
Villages surrounding Kyiv, including Bashiv, Stoyanka and Sitnyaki, are in ruins. Their infrastructure damaged, buildings destroyed and streets deserted.
The workers are still working and they're making sure that in case of any heavy bombardment in this area in Sofia Square, this statue, which is an ancient statue, is a heritage of the city, is protected and is not damaged in any kind of air attacks from the Russian forces.
Destroyed tanks, armored vehicles dot the landscape, indicating a massive trail of destruction. India today met a group of US war veterans who have arrived in Kyiv to help Ukraine fight back.
So Marshall incidentally is a combat veteran. He's had extensive tours of duty overseas with the US Armed Forces. John, you're helping as a volunteer. What do you do?
So I'm actually bringing donations from Canada. I'll be volunteering at the Medica border crossing, just helping refugees. I passed through there a couple days ago. They definitely need all the assistance that they can get, 100%.
Despite continued attacks from Kyiv, some residents of Kyiv who fled the capital city are slowly returning home.
Now that the two of you are back and you're on rotation, you're on R&R right now, you'll go back to the front line.
Yes, next week, approximately next week.
So the time that you're spending together, and I don't want to, be as, take away a lot of your time, but you do intend to now come together for a longer period, I believe.
Of course. Now we have time for a week and we try to walk, try to drink a coffee and maybe bicycle tomorrow. Of course, I find flowers for she and try to make happy moments.
When you try to make happy moments, you're also planning to spend your life together, I believe. That was the conversation the two of you were having when we met.
Мы когда с тобой гуляем, ты планируешь, что мы и дальше будем с тобой гулять, будем дальше встречаться?
Конечно же. Я надеюсь...
Of course we will try and we make everything what we can for this. And ты надеешься, что...
Да, я надеюсь, что мы будем вместе.
She hope we will be together.
I wish you all the best, sincerely. The two of them looked lovely together and, that's when we walked up to them and struck a conversation. Amidst all the death and destruction and gloom, there is this story of life, there is this story of happiness.
Local churches becoming rallying points for residents. With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Kyiv war zone, Bureau Report, India Today.
Russian President Vladimir Putin hit out at Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky soon after getting a peace overture from Kyiv. Putin, who has shown open disdain for Zelensky in the past, now threatens to thrash him. Reports say that the Russian oligarch and unofficial peacemaker Roman Abramovich presented President Vladimir Putin with a handwritten note from Zelensky. On receiving this handwritten note that details the war-hit country's peace terms, Putin reportedly said, and I quote, "Tell him I will thrash them," unquote. Russia recently turned down a proposal for one-to-one peace talks between Putin and Zelensky to end the conflict, saying any talks will be possible only after key issues are settled. Earlier, sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich had accepted Ukraine's request to help in the negotiation to bring an end to the war that began on 24th of February. Sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, who has been playing peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine, was poisoned, according to American newspaper The Wall Street Journal. The Chelsea owner has been dividing his time between Istanbul, Moscow and Kyiv in a bid to get sanctions leveled against him lifted. Here's more.
Roman Abramovich, the Russian oligarch who took part in peace talks in Ukraine, allegedly became target of an attack during the negotiations. The Wall Street Journal has claimed the sanctioned Russian tycoon and at least 2 Ukrainian negotiators suffered a suspected bout of poisoning. The report adds that the condition of the victims has since then improved and their lives are out of danger. According to reports in the Western media, the oligarch had flown from Turkey to Russia, but met Zelensky in Kyiv on his way. The billionaire then flew to Moscow with a handwritten note from the Ukrainian president and delivered it to Putin. The letter reportedly outlined Kyiv's conditions for the end of war, which Putin trashed. Abramovich then returned to Istanbul and informed Ukrainians of Putin's reaction. The alleged poisoning of Abramovich and other negotiators is being seen by Western news agencies like AFP as a bid to sabotage peace talks. With the two sides now negotiating directly, there are many questions related to Abramovich that remain unanswered. Has Abramovich fallen out of favor with Putin? Will the West reward Abramovich by lifting the sanctions on him? Or will Abramovich's proximity to Putin continue to impact him? The sanctions imposed by the West have already cost Abramovich quite a fortune. He has had to let go of his prized possession, Chelsea Football Club. Abramovich's attempt at peacemaking was being seen by his critics as a bid to clear sanctions slapped on him. Bureau Report, India Today.